welcome back to our next edition of Crop It Like It's Hot, brought to you by our revamped arable farming digital offering and powered by Farmers Guardian. I am your host, Ash Elwood, and today I'm joined by Miles and Hannah from Wild and Furrow, and they'll tell us all things about their arable diversification. But before we get into that, we put out a call to farmers to see what real-time experiences and diversifications they had come up with, and here's a couple that were sent in.
Hi, it's Farmer Richard from Play at Lower Drayton Farm in Staffordshire in the West Midlands. First and foremost, we're farmers. We're growing wheat, oilseed rape, spring barley. We also grow potatoes, carrots and parsnips. But then part of our diversification is pick your own pumpkins. About 30 eggs, pick your own pumpkins, pick your own carrots, pick your own parsnips, pick your own potatoes, pick your own beetroot, pick your own sweet corn as well. So that goes really, really well. We've also got an AD plant on the farm, so an AD plant. But back to the open farm, it's a big children's play barn on site with animals, tractor and trailer rides, school visits and seasonal events. Starting with lambing in the spring, tulip festival at Easter, maize in the summer, pumpkin picking in the autumn, and then Father Christmas is on the farm for Christmas as well.
Hello. So diversifications, we do have quite a lot, but the main thing is that they can't get in the way of the day-to-day running of your normal business. So arable farming is high up on our agenda, and if the diversification compromises that enterprise, then it's not always worthwhile. The other thing we do as well is we split them all up into their own company in their own right. So everything's its own limited company in terms of diversification. So we can monitor the performance of that company, because say electric, for example, if you've got loads of different companies using different, it's very hard to break down the costs. So we tend to split them up. So we've got Dandelion Hideaway Limited, which is glamping. So you can check out the website there if you want any information on that. We've got CropTec Limited, which is storage. We've got Elms Farm Poultry Limited, which is the poultry enterprise. And then the arable enterprise is a partnership. So we keep everything separate, and it's just a really good way of knowing all the costs. We've also got a dog walking field. We've got about 40 commercial lets. Got about 10 residential lettings. Manage all in-house, don't use agents really. Yeah, keeps us busy, but when farming is quite difficult, it's great to have these diversifications. Not to keep the farm going, but it's just good for cash flow and income when things are a bit tougher. We've also got a livery yard, which we rent out, 38 horse livery yard. We rent that whole thing out as a business. We've got a quarry that we rent out, a couple of fishing lakes. We've got a solar farm, which we rent out. Got a few other ground source heat pumps for the chicken sheds. Also doing soil sampling, so go on other farms, do soil sampling, nutrient management planning, IPM plans, stuff like that, which comes under the farming umbrella really. But yeah, quite a bit going on.
Hi Ashley. Yes, I'll just get into how we set up the diversification of the paddle farm. It was basically I had the idea from playing it abroad, and then knew it was the fastest growing sport in the UK, and doing a bit of market research around the York area. There was outdoor courts at David Lloyd Gym, but there's no indoor courts, and a potato store, the size it is and the roof height it is, was the perfect sort of fit, and it was insulated for people to play paddle during the winter. So yeah, I went down that route. The reason why I really did it was we grow 850 acres of potatoes. We had 10,000 tons worth of storage, and I unloaded that store and I lost 12 grand on the store just because of the yields where they were last year and the prices we were getting. To when you store potatoes, my break-even point is about the start of March, and they sort of forced my hand to unload in January because that's when my contract started, and I ended up losing money. Just looking how farming is and everything like that at the moment, I was, I can make more money out of these stores than just storing potatoes. So sort of called the processor's bluff a bit and put them in, and yeah, never looked back. It's been a bit of a steep learning curve, going from potato farmer to a paddle farm, but it's been a blessing really. And I would like to say to any other farmer that wants to diversify, and if you do a bit of market research around yourself and find there's not many indoor paddle farms, paddle courts around you, then I think it'd be a serious option The only holding point for you would be it has to be a 12-metre high roof. But I'm always willing to give another farmer a hand, because where we are at the moment in the industry, no one's really helping us. So I think we're going to have to help ourselves, really. And I'm always an open book with anyone. If anyone wants to contact me about it, I can always point them in the right direction and help them set it up if they want. I've started a company called Paddle Farm Consultancy, and we are going to help other farmers that are struggling, really, and who've got shed space. Yeah, the investment was around about, well, I'd say you get it all in for about 100,000, which basically these days is a half of a tractor, really. And depending on how you want to do it, but it will pay itself back in a year. So yeah, if anyone wants to ever contact me about it, I'm always there to help.
So welcome both to the podcast, and thank you very much for joining me. So Miles, perhaps you could first just kick us off by just explaining sort of the background to your idea and how it came about to find this market for your oats that you grow on the farm here.
Yes, so I was working in London as a commodity trader in the cocoa and coffee bean markets, and some of the clients were talking about these alternative milks. It was still really new then, and oat milk was one of those that was sort of really gaining popularity. But all of the brands back then were European based, or shipping the concentrate across, made in Europe from European oats, across to Britain, and it just didn't make any sense to me. So that was the initial sort of, okay, let's have a look at this and see if we can do a British oat milk. And then the second phase was when we sort of looked at the fresh side, wasn't it?
We wanted him to come back to the family farm to diversify. We were already growing the oats, but he needed to come back and produce something that wasn't already being produced. So that's why we really followed along the fresh oat milk line. We believed it provided a healthier, creamier, better option for people than the UHT that was on the market.
And what is it about the fresh milk? I suppose obviously your project's very different to the long life products that are available. What are the key differences in the products?
The first one is obviously the shelf life is a lot shorter because you haven't sort of cooked it and sort of sterilised it like you would do for a carton, a sort of long life one. But that comes with so many benefits. The protein levels a lot higher than generally. You have to be careful making those sort of claims because they sort of come after you on it, but a lot more protein, the flavour and the sort of creaminess that you get from packing a lot more oats in, it just tastes like a sort of different product almost.
A lot of people prefer our fresh oat milk to the UHT because it retains a really oaty flavour, and also it has a little kick of sweetness to it, and that has been great because people can add it to smoothies, hot chocolates, their porridge, without then having to add any sugars or anything else to it. But ours is a natural sweetness just because it's not been cooked at such a high temperature. So that you get those lovely flavours and creaminess, and you just feel like you're drinking something that is good for you and that you love drinking. That's one of the big things that we have enjoyed hearing from our customers, that they just will happily have a glass of our oat milk. And I think that's something totally different to the UHT. Yeah. The UHT is to go alongside, you know, they can cook with it, but they just love the taste of our oat milk.
No, it's really interesting. I've just done a taste test, obviously, between your oat milk and then a different long life version, and there is a massive taste difference, isn't there? And talking about sort of the formulation and how you came to find the recipe for your own oat milk, what did that process look like, and how long did it take you to fine tune to find what it was?
It started out in a sort of kitchen recipe scale where you're constantly adjusting and making lots of little trials, and then we were sort of installing the different kit in the processing sort of side, and probably took nearly a year from start to finish of actually putting in the kit to almost sort of selling the product with all its sort of food safety tests and things like that, because we had to once we scaled up to the sort of factory size, you had to basically start with the recipe again almost and sort of tweak the timings here and there to get that flavour profile just right, really.
We've had a lot to learn. It's been a really fun process, but there's been so much more behind the scenes. You go into it thinking, yes, we've got the oats, let's make a really honest, fresh oat milk from our farm. And that sounds so lovely and so simple, but there's so much more to it. We've been doing all the SALSA accreditation where you go through all of the health and safety. There's so much paperwork behind the scenes every day when Miles is making it. There's so many checks that he has to make. And so, like you were saying earlier, the cleaning process takes longer than the process of making the oat milk. But we're so pleased with what we've made. It's a great product that we're really proud of, isn't it?
So this year we got 2 stars at the Great Taste Awards, and we were the only oat milk to get that. And it just sort of, for us, we thought, right, that's it. We've now sort of achieved and proven to the market that why we put so much effort into this to create the different product. And I think that's sort of come through with that award.
Just going to sort of pick back up on what you were saying earlier about, obviously you're a family farm.
Yeah.
You grow, the oats came first, if you like, and the farm came first, and this is a bit of a diversification, but do you just want to tell us about where it fits in sort of in the industry?
So our parents had been farming here for close to 50 years. Our cousins are all dairy farmers, our grandparents are dairy farmers, so we are very much involved in the dairy industry and love the dairy industry. We're not here to attack that. We're not here to say drink oat milk, don't drink cows. That's absolutely not our message. Our message is that we just wanted to provide the consumer, the customer, with a great, honest story which is good for them. It's British. We're genuine farmers that are combining our oats and then turning them into this product that is good for them. Lots of people can't tolerate cow's milk, and this just gives everybody that lovely alternative option. So I think that's where we fit in.
Yeah, and I think as a business, it's sort of allowed me to come back to the farm. My parents and my brother and things are still heavily involved in the sort of working arable farm, and this sits alongside on the same site. And it just has allowed us to diversify from a sort of situation where I might not have been able to come back and be involved in the British farming industry. So you've just got to look for these new avenues to work with alongside your arable farm, really. Well, that's what we found. And I think, especially with the challenges at the moment in farming, I think a lot more farms are going to sort of look for these different alternatives and just start to try things. And some of them work. We weren't sure at the beginning. We've had our moments, but it's sort of just worth trying it and just seeing what else is out there alongside, because it's such a great platform as a farm to diversify from. You've got the space, you've got sort of various equipment which can help out, and I think farmers generally are quite entrepreneurial people. They're quite good problem solvers, so I think most of them should get out there and give it a go.
So I suppose if we move on to focus on the oats as a sort of key player in this whole diversification, how much influence does the way that the oats are grown and the variety that you've selected have on the oat drink?
So we've tried a few different varieties. You've got your winter milling oat varieties. We have actually been using a few spring oat varieties at the moment, just purely because that fits in with our crop rotation. You get varying levels of fat and protein. It has to have that good dehullability, otherwise you're losing too much with the dehulling process. So that's obviously a big factor, but it's also just picking the right variety that works and is quite consistent. We can't have that inconsistency in flavour coming through, because otherwise people get used to it. And so for us, it's about something that we can grow consistently, reliably, but also brings through that flavour.
So obviously you're growing oats as part of a rotation. What else do you grow on the farm?
So we've oilseed rape, barley, beans, all the sort of standard stuff really for this area. We can't get too adventurous on this land.
What sort of land is it here?
is fairly heavy. Yeah, a fair bit of clay in there. So we're in a bit of a valley as well. So we sort of does get a bit waterlogged sometimes. So we've been working to try and put in some cover crops and things like that just to explore that route and try and improve the structure a bit.
Brilliant. And oats are stereotypically known as a bit of like a low input crop. Is that the same for an oat milk oat, or do they need any extra nutrition? Does that affect the protein, or sort of growing wise, is it quite standard?
Yeah, they're pretty low input. They do pretty well off not much. To ensure that sort of milling grade and bushel weight, we make sure that we're giving them plenty.
So with any new business venture, there's often quite a big highlight and a big focus on sort of your sustainability. So can you just walk us through your wild and furrow sustainability targets that you've got?
So we applied for a grant and managed to secure the grant to put in solar panels, which has been great because that now powers our factory.
Oh, wow.
So that's something that we're really proud of. The other thing, sustainability is key now. If you want to go into business, that needs to be at the forefront of your, of your aim. And we went into the glass. All of our oat milk goes into glass bottles. We have two options at the moment. One is a 750 ml, and one is the traditional pint glass bottle. But we can reuse those glass bottles over and over again. So on a sustainability front, that's been brilliant, hasn't it?
Yeah, the sort of one of the key sort of deciding factors with some of these companies, they're looking at our food miles and things like that compared to some of these other brands, and they're saying, look, we're moving towards this, and you're trying your best your side as well. This is something we want to be involved with, working with you, rather than a brand that's sort of just trying purely for commercial sort of profits. We're saying, look, we probably could save a few pennies if we did it this way, but we're trying to do it right, doing it in glass and things like that. So yeah,
we've looked at different options with the pulp, so the oats that are left over after
the byproduct.
The byproduct, exactly. So some of that has gone into making things like soaps and all sorts of different body products like that. Also, it's been turned into different things, like we've given it to local bakeries and they've turned it into sort of like granola bars, effectively, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's just something else that as we get bigger and bigger, we'd like to do more and more things with our byproduct, wouldn't we?
Yeah, there's lots of things you can do now that we've got a really good base product that we can expand onto. Sort of the ice creams are something that we're eyeing up. It's the ice creams, the byproduct. With that, you can start adding a few flavours. Yeah, there's lots of different ways we can go with it.
We've had quite a few people use our oat milk. We just sent them big amounts of it to test how it worked in ice cream, and it worked incredibly well.
Because it's creamier, yeah.
Exactly.
It's quite tricky to make sort of the plant-based ice cream. You don't have the same fat content as cow's milk, so you can add sort of double cream or whatever in other ice cream. Whereas this, because ours is creamy, they're finding they don't have to add the other oils to sort of compensate, so it's sort of better base product for them as well. So that's sort of something we're looking at. And I think you can actually do dog ice cream with that, because it's sort of basically dairy-free ice cream, so that seems to be growing, but yeah.
And would there be anything from like the farm gate, I suppose, because like passers-by, could they come and buy from here, or do you not do that currently?
We have a farm shop about a mile away, isn't it?
Well, not ours, but...
No, sorry, not our farm shop. We have Farndon Fields, who are a mile away from here.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're a really good farm shop.
They supply it, so local people tend to just go there rather than us having something at the end of the drive.
But we've started supplying a few vending machines, haven't we? Farmers are sort of putting them at the end of their drive, and that's actually an interesting one that's sort of popped up in the last year or two, just a couple more of those.
They seem to be really popular, the vending machines, because they're sort of, they don't have to be manned, do they? So it sort of runs itself as long as you keep it stocked, I suppose.
Exactly.
It's an option for people to go and grab.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Brilliant. So when we were in the factory before, you ran me through, obviously, the process, almost like a farm to fork, if you like, metaphor. Would you be able to run us through just loosely what happens between, obviously the crop getting harvested and then a bottle arriving on somebody's doorstep.
Yeah, the grain to glass.
Yeah, that's a better one. Grain to glass,
Yep, so we'll be growing them in the fields, and we'll harvest them and put them in our shed. So we take them away to the local mill where they're processed and milled, and they then bring them back to us, and then we store them on site, and we'll use them so we'll pour them into a vat of hot water and stew all the oats, and the oats start to break down into the different starches, and that flavour profile comes through of the oats and the sweetness. Then you sieve out all the oats, and you're left with that sort of base of just the oats and the water. It's already looking a little bit milky at that point, but it's quite thin and watery. Then we add in a couple of ingredients like the cold pressed rapeseed oil from another British farm, and starts to give it a bit more body, just a bit of creaminess, and salt sort of brings through some of the flavours. Then we will pasteurize it at that lower temperature, just similar to cow's milk, rather than going to the UHT levels, which will sort of make it a sterile product. And that gives it flavour yet again. It sort of cooks it a little bit, and then homogenize it so that all the ingredients stay nice and mixed together and don't separate in the glass bottle. Then cool it all down to 3 or 4 degrees, like in a sort of dairy plant, and then bottle it up, and we'll deliver it to the local shops, cafes and doorstep delivery companies.
And what's the timescale on that sort of process? How long does it take to actually make a bottle?
So we'll start in the morning, start the process sort of with all the heating up all the water, and by lunchtime we'll sort of have all the product made in the tanks, and then we'll sort of bottle it that afternoon and be washing down all the kit in the afternoon as well. So you sort of make it to order that day, really. Yeah.
And what's your main sort of market at the minute? Is it mainly doorstep deliveries, or is it like local cafes, or what's your...
Up until this point, it's been farm shops, cafes,
A few universities.
Yeah, universities, that kind of thing. And as we've grown in confidence and our products sort of got its name out there a little bit more, we've started to get into the doorstep deliveries, haven't we? And that's now definitely our biggest market.
Yeah, and going to be even bigger, hopefully, in the next few weeks.
The other side of our market has been festivals. They've been a lot of fun. And also that's been great to hear feedback, because we're there, we're delivering every day, we're seeing the customers using it, and that's been really fun. There's been a massive festival a few miles away from here. Is it about 4 miles?
Yeah, and we do it in those boxes, don't we?
Yeah. We have a 10-litre bag and box, which has got a little tap attached to it. And that's been amazing for festivals, but also the coffee shops are starting to get more and more into that. One of our biggest challenges is, through being fresh, we have a 13-day shelf life. And that is a challenge because we need it to be chilled during that time. So coffee shops have very little fridge space. So these bag and boxes have been brilliant because they slot in 10 litres in a box. So that doesn't take up so much storage space. But yeah, back to festivals, there's been more and more demand.
Yeah, we did a big one this year, didn't we?
The one that's not allowed to be named.
Yeah, down, where is it? Down in Somerset somewhere. We're not allowed to say that we supply them.
Right.
But that was quite a good one this year.
Wow. Yeah.
It's quite good to do during the summer months when sort of some of the orders slow down because of summer holidays. These festivals really pick up, don't they? They would do 6,000 litres over a weekend, and they just absolutely fly through the stuff, don't they?
Do all of your oats go into your oat milk, or where else do they go?
Everyone's always asking, do I need to grow some oats for you yet, sort of thing, and is your whole farm oats? No, not at all. We sort of, the amount of oats you need to make the oat milk in comparison to sort of what a field can produce, we're I would say more than half of our oats go to, we will sell on to a miller's milling oats, and then we'll hold some back so that we can use them throughout the year. But
I suppose as a sort of final question to anybody that's listening that might be, on the fence thinking to diversify, what might be your top tips to encourage people to, really consider diversifying their farming business?
I can recommend a tip, and I think work with your family farm, work as a team. It's been really fun and a privilege to work with my brother and my other brother, who's the one that does all of the actual general day-to-day field work. You can trust your family, you work together, you know each other like the back of your hand, and it's an absolute privilege, yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of the top tip would be, just like you say, if you get the right people around you, just try and find someone that's able to help you with that, because stuff will go wrong, and just believe that together you can get through it, because there will be moments where you doubt yourself. So just if you're with the right people, you can probably work out a solution. It's never going to be as bad as you think. So if you've got the right help and the right team, I think that's...
And the right product.
Yeah. But
that's about how.
Yeah, definitely.
No, that's lovely. On the flip side of that, have you ever had any disagreements in a family? Because working with family is brilliant, but it can also bring its own challenges, can't it, in that you do know each other so well.
Yeah.
Has it ever created any challenges, or has it been quite smooth?
For us, it's been really smooth because it's very clear Miles is the head of this. He is the final decision maker. You are, honestly, he knows what he's doing, and we are all here really just to see him succeed. That is our total aim and focus. So we'll all help, we'll do what needs to be done, we'll say our opinion and give our advice and things, but what Miles says goes, and that has been key. That's why we have not fallen out and why it's come together so well. Yeah.
Makes me sound like a sort of general, but
no, absolutely not.
People do ask us, do you row? Because you're sort of always seeing each other and speaking to each other all day. But we've always been quite close as a family. We don't really. There's the odd moment where a tractor's parked in the way of a delivery van, but it's nothing too serious. It's sort of, it all works quite well, really.
And we all know each other's strengths. That's the other thing. When you work with family, you know each other so well. Miles is fantastic at science and particular details and things like that. Angus is amazing at just getting stuff done. Like you were saying earlier, if there's a problem, he just won't take no for an answer. So he just keeps going at it until it is sorted. And I love working with people. That just makes me so happy. Every day I would happily be out there chattering away to the customers.
And
that's
you're
what I
super
love.
organised as well, which helps sort of keep everything on track, because I sort of will get zoned in on the details and you'll be there saying, right, no, we've got to look at this and sort of plan ahead. So it does work quite well.
Know each other's strengths and weaknesses, definitely.
I think, like I was saying to you before, I think that real farming core is so unique in a mindset. I think sometimes, and I'm probably speaking personally now, but when you think of oat milk from a farming perspective, there can be that negativeness.
We can touch on that if you like a little bit. When we first started out and we were doing all of our taste testing, people would come up to us and have never even heard oat milk, oat drink. They've never heard that term before. And people were sometimes quite concerned that we were attacking the dairy market, especially when we were in little local farmers markets or farm shops, and they'd be like, no, not interested in that stuff. And we'd say, we're just local farmers and we're setting this up with our oats. And as they started to talk to us, you could see their shoulders going down, and they sort of relax into the whole different mindset of, actually, this is just an alternative. Whereas now it is so well known. Not a place that we go into now where they've not heard about oat milk. So it's just incredible how that's changed just over a 3-year period.
No, it's interesting, and I think a lot of the barrier to diversification is obviously the initial investment, isn't it? That can be a barrier, and you really need that light bulb moment, like you say, I can't not do this. You need that real confidence to spend that money and make that leap. And I suppose, coming back to tips for people, at what point did you know, because obviously, you must have made an investment to enable your factory and all the rest of it. At what point did you know that, yes, this is the right move, let's go for it?
Even now, you sometimes question yourself and think, we're absolutely mad. Every time we're making a sort of big investment in there, you think we're just starting to sort of make a bit of money or say actually get some money back into the account, and then you go and bloody need a different bit of kit, and you think we're mad. But then when did we first know? I suppose you have to think about where you want this business to go eventually and the steps along the way to get there. So we started out small because we knew we needed to get a good product. That was our first thing. So we started with the farm shops, started small volume in these nice bottles. It was very manual. We didn't go all out on bottle filling machines. And the kit, anyone starting out, you need to be really careful about not getting too carried away in kit. You can spend a fortune just buying custom this, custom that. I was really careful about buying things that I could sell back on because I thought I need to get my money out of this if it doesn't work. And we didn't know if it was going to work, did we? But the kit that's flexible, because it might not even be the right business plan. We were thinking 6 months in we might have to swap to ice cream straight away. We sort of thought that's our plan B if this doesn't work. We'd worked out what kit we would sell and what kit we would buy to swap that so that we could keep it fairly flexible. So you just got to be a bit aware of that going into it, and you never know when the right time to sort of invest all that money. You just you feel yourself investing, and then you invest a little bit more, and then you get to the point where you've invested that much, you might as well put a little bit more in, or sort of as in reinvest. And it sort of just snowballs really. You sort of start to need that bit or that bit to meet that contract. That particular type of filler will sort of pay for itself because you get that contract. That's how we work really. We won't buy it unless it's got a sort of adding value and paying for itself within. We would look for try and pay for itself within a year would be sort of what we aim for really. That particular item, obviously the first couple of years you're not going to get that back for a while, and you're not going to be able to take a salary straight away, so you've got to be prepared to. That's why I balanced the farming to begin with. I was sort of doing farming and taking a salary from that and trying to sort of fund the oat milk through my farm work, and then it sort of starts to take up more time really.
That's so interesting, and it is a real sweet balance, isn't it, between obviously it needs time to grow legs and to sort of hold itself, but also what you do in the meantime to live and keep going, isn't it? It's really interesting.
There are some amazing grants out there. They have been critical. Without some of those, we would not have been able to grow as much as we have. You know, it takes time to find them, and it also takes a lot of time to fill in the forms. That's what I tend to spend quite a lot of time on the computer doing that side of things. But it really is worth, if you're starting out, it really is worth looking into those.
That's
they are key.
You're right. We wouldn't have done some of the big projects. We just wouldn't have done without a grant. Sort of some of the funding gets up to 50%, and the guys listening to this, you've got to look out for some of these grants, and that would probably help give you that moment where you think, right, because the grant's got this timeline, you think, right, let's go for it with that grant, and then it takes some of the risk away. That's what we found.
Practically speaking, where would people look to see what grants are available? I know that's maybe quite a broad question, but
local councils are always quite a good one. The grants run year to year, and at the moment we won't know so they run up to March 26th, and then they'll reallocate, and you don't know what you're going to get. But the local councils are quite a good one, but we look for various things, don't we? Sometimes the AI things are quite good at finding grants in your area. Those sort of things, you can say what sort of project you're looking to do, and food and drink companies are quite, and farming, they're trying to shift the funding to that side, so that's maybe where we can recoup some of the loss of subsidies is through these grants, I think. That's, farmers sort of, because we're always outside and it's sort of the office work, you think, oh God, I can't be bothered to do that, but it has paid off for us, I suppose, in taking that time.
Also, I don't think farmers are that used to being helped that much. I think
it seems unreal sometimes, doesn't it?
It sort of blew our mind at first that somebody would support us with a 50% grant. But it's there for a reason. So yeah, people need to go out and find it and diversify.
Thanks very much for listening along to our arable diversification podcast. To those that have voice noted in and shared different diversification ideas, and of course to Hannah and Miles for sharing all things about their oat drink diversification and letting us delve into all the details. So thank you very much, and we will see you all next time.